like a piece of colored spaghetti. Just hook it on like this so it just wiggles like a worm. Okay. Then you cast it out as far as you can. If it sinks all the way down and the bobber sits there for more than 15 seconds and nothing happens, reel it in and do it again. Like, what? This is a holding pond. They're stacked up in here. And he says, come here. Because you're familiar with the locator, yeah? Look. Since I come around the console and I'm looking at his locator, and it is fish from here to the bottom. And we're in like 20 feet of water.
Northdale Middle School, the home of tonight's boys swimming and diving match between the Spring Lake Park Panthers and the Blaine Bengals. Welcome here poolside tonight, as we're glad you're joining us this evening, as these two teams will go at it in a cat clash here. As alongside Blythe Whaley, I'm Nick Walsh, and always exciting. Doesn't matter what sport it is for these two teams when they get together, and we should have a good one tonight.
Yeah, we always love a good cat clash here on North Metro, but today I felt it necessary to match the pool. Wearing a teal blue, getting in the spirit. We don't have a ton of swim meets on our airwaves, and so we are pumped today to bring the Panther and Bengal cat clash.
As we'll be getting going here shortly with the boys' 200-yard medley relay. That'll be followed by the 200-yard freestyle. 200-yard IM followed by that, and in fact we're getting some late line changes here, so we're switching out things. Those events will be followed by the boys' 50-yard freestyle, and then we move to the diving events. Following that one, it'll be the boys' 100-yard butterfly, boys' 100-yard freestyle, boys' 500-yard freestyle, boys' 200-yard freestyle events, the boys' 100-yard backstroke, and then the boys' 400-yard freestyle, and that will conclude our events for this evening. As our first event of the night, once again, just before we get going, lane 1 will be to the nearest from us. Lane 8 will be the furthest from us, and our first event of the night, the boys' 200-yard medley relay in the junior varsity. Spring Lake Park will be in lanes 2, 4, 6, and 8. And right now in lane number 4, it's Vinny Thunborg. He'll be followed by Diego Morales, Isaac Lang, and Samuel Planting. Blaine in lane number 5, the far lane from us. It's Howard Hun, Caden Selmas, Noah Herbert, and Owen Vasquez.
Nick, I always love a good relay because it gets a lot of team members on the same page. When a swim meet can be somewhat individual, and you get to see these guys have to rally together to get that combined score.
That's Diego Morales in the water, and now Caden Salmas for Blaine on the far side. So if you're watching for the very first time, each lane down is 25 yards. So in the 200-yard medley, each racer swims 50 yards, or once down and once back. As again, this is Diego Morales at the midpoint of his heat, and Isaac Lang waiting on the podium to head into the water now. As Morales touches the wall, Isaac Lang for Spring Lake Park is in the water. Caden Salmas about 60% of the way as Spring Lake Park here in this JV matchup. About 20 yards ahead so far in this one.
And these ones are important here late in the season as these guys get ready for sections right around the corner. But these meets early on, just getting those jitters out too, because sometimes having to be that first event is tough.
Noah Herbert is in the water for Blaine on the far side, and now Owen Vasquez is the fourth and final swimmer in this boys 200-yard JV IM for Spring Lake Park. Actually, Samuel Planting in the water. Owen Vasquez still on the podium for Blaine. And so about a 30-yard lead here is Vasquez in the water now, and Planting just about to finish up, as we're right around 2 minutes and 40 seconds total. And touching the wall is Planting. As Vasquez makes the turn there. 38.96, the split for Planting there. Very solid number. And Vasquez will cruise the final 10 yards to finish up our first event of the night.
Well, kudos to the Panthers getting to have a better time here in that first event. But again, 4 guys combining in that relay. So they had to work together to make that time happen. And ultimately, you know, there's so many more events tonight. These guys are going to get to be in the pool for a lot more. So this is just their warm up to maybe what's to come for some of those performances from them.
241.52 the time for Spring Lake Park. For Blaine, 303.26 is Spring Lake Park. And their relay wins the first event of the night. Now to event number 2, which is the varsity version. We will have 7 lanes going. In lane number 1, which is the nearest to us, it'll be Maverick Miller, Aditya Ananjari, Trent Zimmerman, and Carson Rawlings. Lane 2 will also be Blaine, Owen Scott, Carson Hamill, Alexander Scott, and Benjamin Carilla. Lane number 4 will be Spring Lake Park. It'll be Sam Clark, Braden Ripken, Gabriel Basig, and Grayson Albrecht. Lane number 5 will also be Blaine. That's Logan Husby, Quang Pham, Brady Lease, and Kobe Bonson. Lane number 6, Isaac Wicks, Miles Erickson, Isaiah Free, and Eli Becker. And Blaine in lane 7, Jesse Tverberg, Jackson Powers, Daniel Lamb, and Jaden Reichert. And in lane 4, that's Owen Scott leading the way. He's about 5 or so yards ahead of everybody. Is Sam Clark. Now Braden Ripken is in the water, followed by Quang Pham, Miles Erickson as well, Jackson Powers on the far side. And now Carson Hamill is in the water, and now finally everybody in the water here in this particular lane. And now looks like Gabriel Basig is in the water first over in lane number 4 for Spring Lake Park, followed by Brady Lease. Isaiah Fry now in the lane, in lane number 6. Lane number 7, Daniel Lamb now in the water. And finally, Alexander Scott in lane number 3. Trent Zimmerman still waiting on the near side, as Kobe Bonson is already, or check that, Grayson Albrecht is already in the lane. Far side, Eli Becker. As this one, you can tell the difference between varsity and JV. A much more high-tempo race here on the varsity level.
Well, and especially you see how many more lanes, of course, this event has compared to that first JV one. But this is the first one that matters in the sense of points at the end of this meet. Of course, everything matters tonight. You want the JV team to do well, but tonight when we share those big numbers of what these teams' combined score is, this is what's going to determine who walks away with the school victory.
As it was the Clark, Ripken, Basig, and Albrecht team for Spring Lake Park getting the victory in this one at 145.89. Second place was Blaine's Husby, Pham, Lease, and Bonson. They were in lane number 5 at 153.10. Spring Lake Park in third place, just 3/10 behind. It's the Wicks, Erickson, Fry, and Becker squad finishing in third, and then in fourth place, it's Blaine over in the far lane. Tverberg, Powers, Lamb, and Reichert. And you said, as you mentioned, that's where the points begin to accumulate, obviously, in the varsity side of things. And so we move on to event number 3. Is the 200-yard freestyle, so just one swimmer per lane. It'll be lanes 2, 4, 6, and 8. Spring Lake Park across the board. Blaine is not fielding any competition here in event number 3. It'll be, again, near to far. Ryder Costa in lane number 2. Sam Lilladal in lane number 4. Odin Rip in lane number 6. And Tyler Long in lane number 8.
And now when you go into an event that is just your school, you can think about it as, yes, you've practiced against these guys, but it just adds a little bit more intensity, a lot more on the line. It's gonna bring out their best performance.
Lilladal, the early lead, followed by Odin Rip over in lane number 6. Tyler Long in lane number 8. In third place so far, followed by Ryder Costa. Now it appears that Rip and Lilladal are even up in lanes 4 and 6. Lilladal may be a hand's length out in front as we watch the early numbers. It looks like Lilladal made the turn first at 39.01. Rip just behind him, just 17/100ths of a second at 39.18.
That's what I love about swimming and track, the sports, that those milliseconds matter so much. And you'll see that tonight, that whether it's the hand's length or those milliseconds that show who's going to be the winner for those really tight races.
Well, especially when you get to be the more endurance races, the 400s, the 500s, and still sometimes they come down to those quadrants of seconds. As we come towards the 100-yard turn, it seems like Lilladal has increased his lead by just a small margin, maybe a half length, as he makes the 100-yard turn. Lilladal at 124.5, Rip at 125.58, and Long at 128.54, as Costa coming into the 100-yard turn now. And it seems like once again, especially on that turn, particularly, things have evened out once again between Lilladal on the near side of the middle and Odin Rip on the far side. It was about a half length, but now it appears that Rip has evened things up and maybe has taken the slightest of leads as they make the 150-yard turn. And Rip now with the lead, 2.12.71. Lilladal 213.32. So about a half-second lead going into the final set of laps here. Long at 218.17. And they make the turn pretty well even up. It looks like Rip once again just a little bit of an advantage. Costa at 238.27 now into the final turn. And these two coming into the finish. It looks like Odin Rip might have a little bit of an advantage, maybe a half of a length at this point. So he'll come from behind early to get the victory here in this heat. 257.65, Lilladal at 259.13. Again, all Spring Lake Park. Long finishes at 309.18.
And as you mentioned, it's so interesting sometimes that those turns just really, you see the importance of them. There's just different components of swimming, and that's one of them that really, if someone hasn't worked on their turns quite as much, but yet they're a faster swimmer, that turn can really equal things out.
Yeah, as we see the replay here of the finish, and you can see right there about a half a length maybe ahead, closing the finish line there. Let's move on to event number 4. This will have 3 swimmers per team. Nathan Krotzer will be in lane number 2. Daniel Lamb will be in lane number 3 for Blaine. Sam Clark in lane number 4 for Spring Lake Park. Bradley Weiser in Blaine. In lane number 5, Patrick Kentz in lane number 6 for Spring Lake Park. And in lane number 7, Matthew Hadley for Blaine.
And the fans really help. It seems at every meet they're always very vocal, and that can help so much in a race, just help you get to that next level that you can't quite do in practice, just from that energy that this place, it echoes, so it really even sounds even louder.
And again, near to far, Krotzer, Lamb, Clark, Weiser, Ketz, and Hadley. looks like the early goings again. Clark and Weisser in the middle with a good 2/3 of a lap length lead over everyone else in the field, and they are neck and neck as they make the 50-yard turn. I believe Clark got there just ahead at 26.31 to 26.56 for Weisser. Good evenly paced match as Kratzer in lane number 2 in 3rd place right now. Looks like a slight lead for Daniel Lamb over Patrick Ketz and Matthew Hadley on the far side. As Clark has achieved about a 1.5 length lead now over Weisser at the 100-yard turn, and continues to gain steam as Sam Clark has built now a 2-length lead over Weisser. Almost a 3-second lead, in fact, at the 100-yard turn, and he's continuing to gain ground.
It's always impressive to see just some of these athletes that are really able to separate themselves from those in that same event.
Clark's 3rd split at 29.89. He's gaining steam here, 124.85. Everybody else positive 32nd. Weisser was at 33.17. He lost 4 seconds to Clark on that split. That tells you how strong Weisser or Clark has been here. And he's cruising into the final 15 yards with 1/2 length of a pool lead over everybody. And in fact, he almost, I believe he did lap on the near side. That's Kratzer, who's got another turn. No, he finishes in 2nd place, beg your pardon. Kratzer finishes in 2nd. Weisser ends up finishing in 3rd place. As the race for 4th, looks like it'll be Patrick Ketz, who has about a 1.5 length lead over Daniel Lamb, and then Matthew Hadley on the far side of the pool. So Clark will finish in 1st. Kratzer ends up finishing 2nd. Weisser will finish 3rd. And again, Ketz will finish 4th on that race. 155.26 for Clark. He's the only sub 2-minute score. Kratzer at 2 minutes and 84 100ths. And then Weisser at 2:02.98.
And this was that second event that counts for that total at the end of today of which team is going to come away winning this meet. And really, those are the ones that these guys are going to continue to have to chug away throughout this night to find maybe that spread. How can they get further ahead? But ultimately, both these teams, when I was talking to the coaching staffs before this, just both teams are really in that rebuilding phase this season. Lost a lot of good athletes last year, and these guys having to step up and fill in some of those gaps.
And we've got a full slate here coming up now for event number 6. This is the boys 200-yard individual medley for varsity. So 8 swimmers in lane number 1. Closest to us, Nathan Ledwig for Blaine. Gabriel Besig from Spring Lake Park in lane number 2. Benjamin Carilla for Blaine in lane 3. Miles Erickson for Spring Lake Park in lane 4. Brady Lease for Blaine in lane 5. Eli Becker for Spring Lake Park in lane 6. Logan Husby in lane number 7. And Trent Zimmerman in lane number 8. And I believe they've actually combined some junior varsity and varsity matches, and that's why we have a full slate here. There were a couple where we had one swimmer, and so they've decided to combine a few things, and that's what's going on here.
And as we talked about before, Nick, it's just that athlete that was just going to be that one swimmer on JV, it's going to help them to be put in the pool with some of these varsity swimmers, help them swim maybe a little bit faster than they thought they could.
This is Gabriel Besig, and he is already at the 75-yard turn. Everybody else pretty even. We're seeing a lot of turns at the same time. Carilla, Erickson, Lease all turned pretty much at the same time. Also, Husby also turned, but Besig is about 1.5 lengths ahead as we get to this turn here, the 100-yard turn. And Besig is in at 1:05.57, and he's got about a 4-second lead on everybody else so far. Second place, pulling away a little bit now, is Miles Erickson in lane number 4. And he has actually gained quite a bit of ground here on Basig, and they are pretty much neck and neck now. As Basig had a large lead, but now it has become Erickson who's pulled ahead.
Now, who has the stamina, who has the ability to really have those quicker turns? It might come down to that in this race.
A good turn for Erickson there as Basig in second place. Over in lane 7, this is Husby in third now. As Brady Lease in fourth place, Ben Carilla in fifth place. But right now it is Erickson who has turned on the jets here after the first 50 yards and has really taken control of this one.
I always love when you see an athlete when they do get that big lead, but they still look like they're swimming comfortably but fast.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like he's going to run out of gas.
As Erickson makes the touch in 2:20.92. Second place will be Basig, coming in at 2:26. Lane number 5, that's Brady Lease over there, touching up at 2:28.92. And in fourth place will be Husby at 2:28.98. So that completes event number 6. And now we move into a much more high-paced tempo here. The boys 50-yard freestyle here in junior varsity. Lane 1 is Isaac Lang for Spring Lake Park. Lane number 2 is Caden Salmus from Blaine. Diego Morales in lane number 3 for Spring Lake Park. Flint Revord in lane number 5 for Blaine. Samuel Planting for Spring Lake Park. Lane number 6. Owen Vasquez in lane number 7 for Blaine. And Parker Saxton for Spring Lake Park in lane number 8. So 7 lanes, the only open lane, lane number 1 here for event number 7.
Now, as we get into some of these shorter races, you're going to see a lot more of that quick twitch muscle come into play versus what you've had to see a lot of these guys, more endurance, how can they stick with it? But really, just how can you get there as fast as you can? And these guys are going to be coming out blazing fast, so make sure you're ready to see it.
Just looking through the charts, it looks like they did combine a total of 8 events. I should say 3 events. This one notwithstanding. There are 7 in this particular event and another 8 coming up in the varsity level of the 50-yard freestyle. So we'll have these 2 events and then move to the diving portion of the show. As we are set to go, Lang, Salmon, Morales, Revord, Planting, Vasquez, and Saxton near to far. One time down, one time back. And the early going is Diego Morales, who has a half a length lead over everybody so far and gaining ground as he makes the 25-yard turn in about 13 seconds. Second place between Salmon and Lang on the near side, along with Vasquez on the far side. But this is going to be all Diego Morales. He's got a 2-length lead as he's going to cruise in about 28 seconds, 28.72. Close race for second as it's Lang, Salmon, and Vasquez. And who touched the wall first? It's Salmus in second place. Lang is in third and Vasquez in fourth. All very close. Salmus at 32.44, Lang at 32.75, Vasquez at 33.31.
And now you guys see, we were not kidding you. These races are fast and over with a blink of an eye.
And that was the JV version, so this one's going to be probably 4 or 5 seconds faster yet. As we'll have a full slot here in event number 8. Maxwell Schuster in lane number 1 for Blaine. Griffin Gaspersich in lane 2 for Spring Lake Park. Jaden Reichert for Blaine in lane number 3. Braden Ripken in lane number 4 for Spring Lake Park. Ryan Mackey for Blaine in lane 5. Carson Holmquist for Spring Lake Park in lane 6. Carson Hamill in lane number 7 for Blaine. And in lane number 8, Grayson Albrecht. We've got 2 Carsons, a Ryan, a Grayson, and a Graydon, and a Brandon. Pretty good Pretty good guess that somebody with the letter N at the end of their name is pretty good chance of winning this one.
Okay, gear mark.
And into the water. Quickly is Ripken in lane number 4, out to a bit of a lead. Makes the turn first, right behind him. Mackey and Holmquist. They're out front. As Ripken, half a length lead. He's going to win this. Looks like Mackey's going to come in second. Just behind him is Holmquist. Three-way tie for fourth, or three-way race for fourth, I should say. Ripken gets the win for Spring Lake Park. Mackey in second, Holmquist in third, and Gaspersic picks up fourth place. 21.83 was the winning time.
Well, Braden Ripken has 2 ends at each his first end of his name and the last, so he really stood out in this race. But that's what it takes, you know, the work in the offseason, these guys just coming out and really able to perform late in the season here.
And that will end the first portion of our swimming, and so we will have a break, and then when we come back, we'll have the diving portion. 2 divers in junior varsity. We've got 6 divers for the varsity. We'll be back after this. You're watching high school swimming here on North Metro TV. of tonight's match between Spring Lake Park and Blaine. Right now, Spring Lake Park holds a 44-18 score at the break. And now we will move to the diving portion. We will have 2 junior varsity divers and then 6 varsity divers for every round. So we'll have a total of 6 rounds overall. Each diver will go in order, so every round the first 2 divers will be junior varsity. As the Tiger looks on, standing watch over the pool.
That's always my favorite part.
Always very relaxed up there. No threats on the high board. As we are set to go, Jonathan Kambata will be our first diver of the night. This is a forward dive and a tuck. Degree of difficulty of 1.2. And a 4.0, 4.0, and a 4.5 for a total of 15 on that dive for Kambata. Our next diver will be Kent Yang, also from Blaine. And this is a back dive straight. 1.7 degree of difficulty. The next 3 divers will all have the same dive. A little bit of a turn there, it looked like.
Yeah, I like seeing the idea, though, of when he got to the end of the board, he took a breath. He definitely decided to take his time on this, but sometimes that can get in your head a little bit.
Yep. Obviously, the goal is to make that half turn and then go straight in, but a little extra turn. And so now Jacob Gillespie, our first varsity diver of round number 1. And once again, a 1.7 degree difficulty, a back dive straight. Closer to straight going through. 3.5, 4.0, 4.0.
And again, you saw him go to that end of the board, settle himself, ground himself as much as he could before he entered, and that helped bring out some better scores there.
Drew Mahova for Spring Lake Park, the first Panther to dive here tonight, and the same dive. Basically come off the board on a back dive straight in. Didn't quite get that up and down angle there, but Spring Lake Park always has that emphatic cheer for their teammates. 3.5s across the board. It'll break up Owen Scott of Blaine. This is a back 1 somersault with a tuck. 1.5 degree of difficulty. All the dives here in round number 1 are back dives. And got all the way around, came in, low splash. See if what the judges see fit, and yeah, 2 4.5s and a 5. 21 points, that's the best dive we've had so far in round number 1.
Yeah, it has to feel good to come out of the gates, have your first dive, at least right now, currently, be leading the pack and getting to have that impact early on.
David Mueller, same dive as the previous 3 before Owen Scott, the back dive straight. And a little bit of a curl right at the end, but pretty solid. 30.5, 4.0, and 4.5. 20.40 the score. Second best dive here in round number 1. Best of the back dive straights. We'll see one more in a couple. This will be Sebastian Santiago. This is a back dive with a pike. Oh, almost no splash coming into the pool there. 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 31.2. By far the best dive.
Yeah, awesome for Santiago to come out, have the performance that he probably wanted to, especially when you're thinking about this is the first round. He has some more down the stretch, and to have a good one right out of the gates helps a lot.
And Evan Boyne finishing off round number 1. And once again, a back dive straight. And 4.0, 4.0, and 4.5, 21.25 is the score. And so we will move from here. That was the statistically the best back dive straight, by the way, round number 1. Beating the 21 of Owen Scott. Now we move to round number 2. This will be Jonathan Kambata.
Kambata is one of those guys coming from the JV that got merged together.
That was a forward somersault tuck. 14.7 is the score. Kent Yang now will step to the end of the board. This is a backward somersault with a tuck. Well, it's a little more bounce on this one. Four 4.0, and 2.5, 15.75 is the score there.
So currently, both of these first 2 divers had better scores there in round 1 than round 2, and so gonna want to have that bounce back round in 3 if they can.
Yes, Gillespie now. Also a back somersault with a tuck. A little more splash maybe going in, but pretty solid. Going in vertically. 4.0, 4.5, and 5.0 total of 20.25. We bring up Drew Mahova, and he also will do a back single somersault with a tuck. 3rd in a row once again. .3.0, 3.0, and 3.5, 14.25. I don't get enough of that. It doesn't matter how many times you see it. Spring Lake Park diver goes in and just gets this emphatic cheer from the crowd on the far side. Owen Scott now. Most difficult dive of the night so far for any diver. This is a back 1.5 somersault with a tuck. Didn't quite get all the way around on it, but we'll still get a round of applause. 2.0, 3.5, and a 4, so 19 is the score given the degree of difficulty. Now David Mueller, same dive as the previous 3 before Scott. Backward single somersault tuck.
See the level of concentration these guys need.
And a little bit of an angle there coming in. 3.0, 3.0, 3.5, 14.25 the score. Now Sebastian Santiago back 1.5 somersault pike. 2.3. This is the toughest dive we've seen today.
He had that leading score out of round 1. Let's see if he can do that again.
A little bit of an angle. Didn't quite come all the way around on it, but still gets credit for the degree of difficulty. 35.65. 2 5.5s and a 4.5. And back to the back. 1 somersault with a tuck for Evan Boyd. Last dive of round number 2. He will finish with a 3.5 and 2 4s for a total of 17.25. And now we go back to Kambata. This is round number 3. This is an inward dive with a tuck move, 1.4 degree of difficulty. Really good entry into the pool there on that one. Let's see if he gets rewarded. He does. 5.5 and 2 5s. 21.7.
Yeah, good for him. His best dive of the night. Coming in round 3 so far.
You watch here once again. Goes straight in. Not too much of a splash. And now Kent Yang. Forward dive with a tuck. 1.2 degree of difficulty.
This comes down to the approach. You see,
man, came around a bit on that one. Just a little overextension of the legs. 2.5, 2.5, 3.0, 9.6. And now to Jacob Gillespie. This is a forward somersault, single somersault with a half twist. Free dive, 1.7 degree of difficulty. Pretty good entry into the pool. We'll see how he is rewarded. 3.5, 4, and a 2.5. 17 points even on that one. Now Drew Mahova, forward dive straight, 1.4 degree of difficulty. Pretty good entry into the pool, a little bit of an over curl, but 4.0s across the board, 16.8. So now to Owen Scott. This is a reverse somersault tuck. 1.6 the degree of difficulty. Man, really good entry into the pool there after completing the somersault. That should be rewarded, and it is. 5s across the board, 24 points for Owen Scott.
I think when you look back on Owen Scott's approach into that dive, can tell he took his time, got himself in the right mindset to take that one on, and as you said, he's rewarded for it.
Now David Mueller, reverse dive tuck, 1.6 degree of difficulty. And never got those feet completely vertical. 4.0, 4.0, 3.5, 18.4. Sebastian Santiago. Most difficult dive of the round. A back 1.5 somersault, half twist free. 2.1 degree of difficulty. And 6.0, 6.5, and 6.0. 38.85 is the score. That is the best single total of the night.
Which is awesome, and you see it, he comes into this team, and coaches are saying that he's someone that's able to help share his expertise with his team and help give them some pointers.
And now Evan Boyne, little inward dive tuck, 1.4 degree of difficulty. And that's a scratch. So no score for Evan Boyne there. As we move to round 4, we're at the halfway point of the divers, and we start with appears that Kambata has only 3 dives, so we are down to 7 divers to start this 4th round. So this will be Kent Yang, forward somersault tuck, 1.4 the degree of difficulty. And 3.5, 3.0, and 3.0, so 13.3 the score. So he is the lone junior varsity diver the rest of the way.
And that's actually his last one. He ends in round 4.
Correct. We go from 7 to 6 after this round. Jacob Gillespie now for Blaine. A forward dive with a tuck, 1.2. .4.0, 4.5, 4.5 for a total of 15.6. And now Drew Mahova. We'll see another forward single somersault tuck. Same dive that Kent just performed. Yes, 4.0, 4.0, 4.5. 17.5. So now Owen Scott will come onto the board, a forward dive with a tuck, 1.2 on the degree of difficulty. Remember, he just came off a 24 in his previous dive. That was his best of the night. Really high off the board, just a little bit of a curl, but pretty good. 5.0, 4.5, 5.0. It's a 17.4. Hard to really build up those points with the degree of difficulty a little lower than his previous dive, but a good one.
Yeah, that's where that makes such a big difference depending on which one they're looking to compete in. But when they have all the mechanics down of one that doesn't have the degree of difficulty, sometimes it can even itself out.
This is Mueller now. Reverse one somersault with a tuck. That was a 1.6 degree of difficulty. 3.5, 3.0, and a 4.0. 16.8 is the score. Now Sebastian Santiago, forward double somersault with a pike. This is a 2.3 degree of difficulty. This is tied for the most difficult dive of the night with his back 1.5 somersault with a pike earlier tonight. Got around on it. Got the full 2 somersaults and gets rewarded 3 6s, 41.40.
Just keeps getting better and better from him tonight. But as I was talking about before, the coach is just talking about his expertise, and in this area, but it's like having another coach on the team since he's helping a lot of these younger divers behind him, just learning some of those tricks and tips that can help them get better.
Yeah, you can see got around on it and then clean entry into the pool. As Evan Boyne as well, forward dive with a tuck, 1.2 degree of difficulty. Entered the pool nicely. And the scores reflect that. 5.0, 5.5, and 4.0 for a total, check that 4.5 for a total of 18. So now round number 5, we'll have just 6 divers. Gillespie, Mahova, Scott, Mueller, Santiago, and Boyne. So Gillespie will start us off here with a forward 1.5 somersault tuck. 1.6 degree of difficulty. And a good entry into the pool. Got around on it. 4.0, 4.5, 4.5, 20.8. Second best. Actually, that is the best dive of the night for Gillespie. At a 20.25 earlier today. Here's Mahova. Inward dive with a tuck. Almost no splash there for Mahova. 1.4 degree of difficulty. And 4.5 is across. 18.9 the score. And that is Mahova's best dive of the night. Owen Scott now, forward 1.5 somersault with a tuck. 1.6 the degree of difficulty.
It's always nice when you can have even some of those better dives the later on you go.
And came around on it just a little further than he might have liked, but 2 3.5s and a 4, 17.6. David Mueller now. Forward dive with a tuck. Lowest degree of difficulty of the round at 1.2. Into the pool, a little bit of an angle going in. 3.0, 3.5, and 4.0, 12.6. Sebastian now forward, 1 somersault, 2 twists, free.
That should be fun to watch.
2.3 degree of difficulty.
Pretty textbook.
Maybe a little more splash than he would have liked, but really good scores nonetheless. 5.5, 6, and 6.5, 41.4. Same score he had on the last dive. 2 twists, though. That's
really adds to the spectacle of it.
I can do the same thing. It's usually I'm falling off the board instead of trying, though. Evan Boyne. Forward dive, or check that, forward 1.5 somersault with a tuck.
And Nick, I'm sure that would be just as entertaining to watch, just different.
I'm sure it would be. 3.5, 3.5, and a 4. Usually less planned, however. I went to get the sheets on my way down earlier. Guy said, excuse me, he was kind of blocking my way. I said, as long as I don't end up in the pool, we're all good.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Here's Gillespie now. Final dive of the night for Gillespie. Inward dive with a tuck. Good entry into the pool. Very little splash there. 1.4 degree of difficulty. A 5 and 2 5.5s for a total of 22.40.
Yeah, he has to feel great with that being his final dive of the night. That's how he gets to close a chapter on this meet.
Yeah, best dive of the night for Gillespie. Now here's Mahova. Forward, one somersault, half twist with a freestyle. 1.7. One and a half and two and a halves for a total of 11.05. Didn't really get around on that one. And now Owen Scott. Final dive is an inward dive with a tuck. 1.4 degree of difficulty. Moving that back just a bit, giving the board a little more give. Good entry into the pool for Scott. 4.5, 4.5, and 5 for a 19.6. David Mueller, final dive of the night. 1.7 degree of difficulty on this one. This is a back, one somersault, half twist free. Same dive as Mahova, except for this is a back dive. Mahova's was a forward dive. 4.0, 4.0, 4.5, 21.25 the score. Sebastian now. Sebastian Santiago, his final dive of the night, will be an inward 1.5 somersault with a tuck. 2.2 degree of difficulty. Oh, the solid finish there for Santiago. 7.0, 6.5 and 6.5. That's 41.80. That is the best dive of the night in terms of scores.
What a way to finish out the diving for him, getting to have that best score come as the last one. That means he still has a lot in the tank that he could keep going.
Final dive of the night, Evan Boyne. Forward one somersault, half twist free. Threes across the board. 15.3 is the score. And that concludes the diving portion of tonight's meet. And we will take a break. We'll come back with the second half of the swimming portion of tonight's match here on North Metro TV.
Washy, wash, washy, wash, wash your hands. Scrub them while you sing this song. Wash, washy, wash, washy, wash, wash. Rub your hands and fingers and the places in between. Using soap and water makes your hands so clean. Wash your hands. Great job, you're almost done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now dry.
Wash your hands for 20 seconds, just like Elmo.
right, back here once again as we are set for the second half. 53-25 our score after the diving portion. Spring Lake Park leading 53-25 after the diving portion. And we are moving along. But in the meantime, let's take a look at a few of the dives by Sebastian Santiago. He was pretty impressive tonight, Blythe.
Wow, he really stands out amongst these guys, and rightfully so. He showed that he can do that degree of difficulty. He had the highest degree of difficulty that he executed tonight. 2.3, I believe, was that top one, and he made that look effortless.
Had an average score of 38.4 and a total score of 230.3, and we are actually underway here with the varsity boys 100-yard butterfly. Lane number 1, we've got Quang Pham, Gabriel Basig in lane 2, Ryan Mackey in lane 3, Isaiah Fry in lane 4, Jace Dyson in lane 5, Isaac Wicks in lane 6, and Carson Hamill in lane number 7. Jace Dayton in lead, just ahead of Isaiah Fry in lanes 5 and 4 respectively. Basig in 3rd place, looks like Pham in 4th place. And it's going to be neck and neck here. Here's Dayton just ahead of Fry, and it looks like it'll be Dayton to touch the wall first. Fry is in 2nd, Mackey is in 3rd, Basig is in 4th. 5th place will be Wicks, Hamill in 6th place, and Pham will wrap things up as Dayton 29.8. The time, Fry, check that, 55.9. Fry 56.11, very close to start this second half of the meet-off.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you come out of that diving portion. Now these guys having to get ready, get back into it. And this first event back into the pool, they showed they are ready to finish this meet off. They're giving it everything.
That'll move us along quickly to the junior varsity boys 100-yard freestyle. We will have a 7-person heat here. The first 7 lanes will be in action as Flint Revord in lane number 1 for Blaine. Tyler Long for Spring Lake Park in lane 2. Caden Salmus in lane number 3 for Blaine. Vinny Thunborg in lane 4 for Spring Lake Park. Carson Rawlings in lane number 5. Parker Saxton in lane 6. Owen Vasquez for Blaine in lane number 7. And looks like Vinny Thunborg is out to the early lead, making the turn just ahead of both Carson Rawlings and Caden Salmus. Also in the mix over in lane 7 is Owen Vasquez. But Thunborg coming out to a full-length lead as we get to the 50-yard mark. Looks like Rawlings will touch in second, just ahead of Saxton over on the far side and Long on the near side. Thunborg continuing to build a lead up to a length and a half now over Rawlings. And Thunborg makes his final turn, maintaining that lead of a length and a half or so. And Vinny Thunborg will cruise in for the victory at just over 107, 107.22. Healthy lead over Carson Rawlings, will finish second at 111.03. The race for third looks like it was Saxton who, check that, Vasquez who reached out to touch in third place. Or check that, Salmus did beat him by a quarter of a second. 116.75 versus 117 even. There we go. It was a difficult maneuver, but we got there.
Well, I always think it's crazy sometimes in these races. It seems that battle for third place or that battle for second seems a lot closer sometimes than that battle for first. And so really just keeping your eyes on the pool even after you get to declare that winner, because those next races might be neck and neck, and just like this one was.
Now we move to the varsity 100-yard freestyle. It'll be lane 2 on the near side. Carson Holmquist for Spring Lake Park. Alexander Scott in lane 3 for Blaine. Braden Ripken in lane 4 for Spring Lake Park. Benjamin Carilla in lane 5 for Blaine. Eli Becker in lane 6 for Spring Lake Park. And Kobe Bodson in lane 7. 6 total swimmers here for the varsity 100-yard freestyle. And a good start there for Braden Ripken. Also on the near side, that's Carson Holmquist, got a good bounce on lane number 2. Looks like right now it's a 4-way race, maybe for second, as you mentioned. Looks like Kobe Bonson starting to fall back now, but Ripken makes a quick turn. Holmquist on the near side, and also Ben Carilla on the far side. Eli Becker as well on the far side, but right now it's all Ripken as Holmquist looks like he's maneuvered his way into second place on the near side. Still maybe a length and a half or 2 lengths. Eli Becker is in the mix now for second as well, but this is going to be Braden Ripken easily claiming first place. Holmquist will touch for second. Becker is in at third. Carilla is in at fourth. Ripken 50.96. Almost 3 seconds ahead of Holmquist at 53.74. And Becker in third place, 55.43.
And these performances by the Panthers are just helping them pad that score, that team cumulative score. You just see continuously a lot of these winners of these races coming from Spring Lake Park.
And now we shift a little bit in the terms of pace.
Oh, definitely.
As we will move from the 100-yard freestyle to the 500-yard freestyle for junior varsity. And so we will have 5 swimmers, I believe. It looks like we've got 4 right now, and now a 5th will join. So awaiting the start of this next race, and of course they do have a different means to how they do this all together, and they have spotters on the far side to give everybody the number of laps that they've made. They also have bells so that you can tell that that's the last turn. You might be hearing the cowbells getting displaced at the moment.
And it's so necessary. This race, it definitely gets long, easy to get confused of which lap that you're on. And those things really help these athletes make sure that they're in that right pace to finish this off as strong as they can.
As we are set to go here.
Yeah, and in these longer events, you're talking a lot more about pacing, a lot more about what it's gonna take to be able to last.
In lane number 2, we called him Rip earlier, but it's actually Rippin. We're in the way the announcer has said it, Rippin, so there's a missing letter there. Sam Lilladal in lane number 4. Kenton LeBeau in lane number 5. Ryder Costa in lane number 6. And Noah Herbert in lane number 7. As we are through the first, and you can see down on the far side, you see those numbers now. You can see how they'll put the numbers down as this is Sam Lilladal, who is the first to touch. This is 75 yards. Well, now it looks like it'll be Rippin and Herbert as well. And again, this is such a different style of swimming. You get these 100 yards, the relays, the medleys, where you've got multiple swimmers in the pool. It's a much more high-paced endeavor. And then you come to this one. This is truly the endurance of the entire match.
Yeah, and that just means how much more emphasis is on pacing. These guys knowing what they can do, how fast they can go to be able to last this long, because Nick, I know that I don't know if I could. I certainly don't know if I could just do it, let alone how fast these guys are able to accomplish this.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I guess I'm trying to think of any other sport where, you know, because a lot of these, they'll compete in multiple different events where you would have the two types that are really at the same time. I mean, you think of baseball, it's more of a, it's still quick paced. It's a slow pace, but it's quick when the event happens, you know, as opposed to like soccer, where it's totally endurance. You know, there are bursts at the same time, but it's more of an endurance sport, where this you might be doing one thing that's a short event and one that's a really long event. You kind of have to have both skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, this one, it's going to come down to, you think about that last length of the pool after they get to that point, what that's going to take of how fast do they have that last kick. Oftentimes you'll see that in track after a really long race, but yet there's still a decently fast finish, as much as these guys can give to empty the tank.
As that's Kenton LeBeau that we're watching there, who is, I believe, at the 200 mark, so about 40% of the way through. And I believe it looks like maybe Ryder Costa might have had a equipment malfunction. He had to stop at the, I believe it was the 125 mark, and it looked like maybe the eye goggles or something may have sprung a leak and had to stop for a little bit. So right now we are in the right around the 175 to the 200 or so for most swimmers here.
That stinks. I mean, if some of your equipment doesn't do exactly what you needed to do, just whether that's staying on your eyes properly so you're able to see and complete this race, it's one of those things where, you know, all those seconds, they add up, even in a long race like this. Of course, when you're seeing time tick off the clock, that you would rather have been making some progress to get towards that finish.
And actually, he went about 125 yards. It sounds like maybe he lost him on the dive in and had to go the first 125 before finally realizing this dog wasn't going to hunt for the entire 500 and just pulled up for a minute. So, you know, there's all, you know, you talk about the endurance, but it could be something like that too, just an equipment malfunction that can change the trajectory not only of this type of event, but any whether it's a short speed race or an endurance race. You can get that either way.
And again, in these races, that turn maybe not as important for the speed, but yet it still does add up, because now you think of how many turns you're having to complete in this race. That's still those turns off the wall, of how fast you're able to get back and getting that momentum the other way. It's going to play a factor.
As LeBeau now to turn 13, which would be 325, I believe. My math doesn't fail me. That would be 325 yards.
I'll trust you. I'll trust you.
I don't think I'm right. I think it's 275 now that I think about it.
Maybe I shouldn't have trusted you.
No, I'm all confused at this point. 16 would be 400. So it would be 325. I said two things and I missed them both times. So there you go. That's why I'm not down there holding the card.
Yes.
I'm up here.
Yeah, it's interesting too. You think about kind of similar when you can relate it to track. I mean, people holding the blocks for you to help you, just for what that does for your race to have, whether that's that teammate that's out there supporting you, because they're the closest ones to you. But it's really important thinking of what they're able to do to help maybe give you just that next edge.
And I'm watching on the near side, and I'm wondering if Odin Rippon has not passed Kenton LeBeau at this point. As correct, Odin Rippon in lane number 2 has been able to surpass LeBeau and is now in first place here, as he has just eclipsed the 400 yard just ahead of LeBeau. And so we talked about the endurance of this, but yet we've got two racers about 2 lengths apart from each other as they go to the 425 mark. And now Rippon makes the turn here, and now LeBeau right behind him. And over on the far side as well, Noah Herbert has also made the 425 turn at this point. So we take a look down. You hear the bells as that's Odin Rippon telling that that is the final turn, final full turn. So we got to the final turn now as Rippon has made the turn. And LeBeau also makes the turn. Rippon has about a 2-length lead, but LeBeau has gained a little bit of ground. I don't think it's enough for him to close in for the finish, but Rippon will cruise in to win this one here at just over 7 minutes and 42 seconds. LeBeau will touch second at 7:49.56. And third place over on the far side, Herbert touches in at 7:59, so sub 8. And then we have, looks like over on lane 6, Costa, of course, with the malfunction, still has a couple of laps to go. And Sam Lillidahl will touch in now, 8:23.93, and Ryder Costa will have one full rotation remaining before we wrap things up. As we take a look at the replay of this one, and this is where Rippon was able to pass LeBeau on the turn. And that was several, as we watch here, as the finish there as he touches in. And again, about 7 seconds ahead of his counterpart in lane 5 to win the junior varsity boys 500-yard freestyle. And the final lap here coming up for Ryder Costa. Getting a round of applause from the group here up in the gallery. Finishing is half the battle. And I've also heard that trying's half the battle, so I don't know what happens in between, because that's 100%. But starting's half of it and finishing's half of it, and somewhere along the line I think it's pretty hard in between too.
But these guys persevered, made it through that very much endurance race. And it can become mental, especially, I'm sure a lot of those guys, you're getting tired, you just kind of want to not finish, as you said, as being that's a huge part of it, and these guys stuck it out. But now the varsity gets a turn on this same endurance race, and they'll get to show us maybe some quicker times. And
yeah, so we had sub 8 times, and some of the seed times in for these folks are in the 5s, so we'll see a much faster pace here. Matthew Hadley will be in lane number 1 for Blaine. Griffin Gaspersich in lane 2 for Spring Lake Park. Nathan Ledwith in lane number 3 for Blaine. Nathan Krotzer in lane number 4 for Spring Lake Park. Bradley Weischer in Blaine, lane number 5. Patrick Ketz in lane number 6 for Spring Lake Park, and Jaden Reichert in lane number 7 for Blaine. As we look at seed times, Bradley Weischer in lane number 5 has a seed time of 5:57.07. Nathan Ledwith 6:05.48, and Jaden Reichert 6:24.09. So we should see some quick times here in the varsity 500. They all make the early turn here on lane number 1. Very competitive so far. That's Gaspersich in lane 2. Krotzer in lane 4. Weischer in lane number 5. And over in lane 7 is Reichert, all within a length or two of each other. Early, very competitive early. As we head towards the first 100 yards here. And so far after 100, it's Nathan Krotzer. Krotzer in at just 1:01.68 through the first 100 yards. As Krotzer starts to expand his lead to about a length and a half here at 1:25. And just the ability to make those quick turns here can make a big difference because you're doing it 19 times over the course of the 500-yard race.
Yeah, it adds up, and we saw that big go-ahead move there in that JV race, and you think about what that was. It was off of a turn that he did get that advantage, and of course still had to finish it out. Still a lot of laps left from that moment, but still, as you said, when you're turning that many times, it's gonna play a factor.
Well, it's very similar to like in baseball or softball, that quick first step out of the box, or maybe when you're watching basketball, you see a center who can turn very quickly. I mean, it's that same thing. It's that first move. And for here, those turns, I mean, the endurance we've talked about, but those turns can really just, even if it's a 1/10 of a second every time, that can be 2-3 seconds.
And again, it just becomes that mental battle that these guys have to go throughout the middle part of this race. How do they keep that pace up that they know they need to after they've had some laps under them that have made them get to some of those tired, exhausted feelings, but there's still a good amount of the race left.
Krotzer, a really good split time at 32.39 on that last turn. As he's over halfway home, he's turning now to the 300-yard turn. He's already 60% of the way, and he's starting to build up quite a lead on most of the field. He's got about a half of a pool length lead over Griffin Gaspersich at this point. And he's the only one that's close at this point. Everybody else is almost a full length of the pool or more behind Nathan Krotzer. Gaspersich put in a nice split time on the last turn of 34.84, but that tells you again what Krotzer has been able to do. 32 seconds on that last split before this one, and picks up another 32.54 on this last split. So you can see he's gaining 5 and 6 seconds here every lap.
That's going to help him down the stretch as we get further into this. And exactly what can be tough too in this type of a race is, of course, so many bodies going back and forth. You really just have to focus on your own race as much as you want to be thinking about where everyone else is, but you just need to go out there and compete to your best of your ability. And of course, if there is someone that's close, right there neck and neck, you would probably be aware of it, but just really what those next closest times are, it's tough to keep track.
Krotzer is now at 4:25 on this turn. We have a couple swimmers that haven't even eclipsed, or are still in the 300s, certainly. As Krotzer is entering the final full lap of the pool at this point. Still a split time of 33.48. That was the 9th time down and back in the pool. 33 seconds. That's really impressive.
It's making me exhausted thinking about it.
And so Krotzer will head for the final 10 yards of the pool here. And he will finish up well below 6 minutes. 5:23.49. And a split time to finish it up of 32.33. Very consistent.
Yeah, it's impressive when you're able to really keep that pace and hit those marks that you want to throughout such a long race like this.
Gaspersich finishes up in second place, 5:37.49. He had a really impressive last split, 33.43. Also checking in now, Weischer finishes at 5:49.44, which beats his seed time by about 8 seconds. This is Nathan Ledwith, and he'll touch up to finish things up. Ledwith finishes at 6:08.79. On the far side, that's Reichert touching up at 6:14.12. This is Patrick Ketz. He'll finish up 6:19.89. And we've got one more. This is Matthew Hadley, and this is his final down and back. So Hadley will make his final turn, and we'll finish up. Looks like just above 7 minutes is where he's going to land. As he will cruise in at 7:09 even. So that will conclude the 500-yard races. And now we move into, once again, a much more sprint-like event, which is the junior varsity 200-yard freestyle relay. And so 50 yards for each swimmer, once down and back, and then switching up. So event number 17 if you're scoring at home. And we will have 4 competitive teams here. Lanes 3, 4, 5, and 6. In lane number 3 for Blaine, Howard Hinton, Noah Herbert, Flint Revord, and Owen Vasquez. Lane 4, Diego Morales, Sam Lillidahl, Isaac Lang, and Patrick Ketz. Anya Andrage for Blaine in lane number 5, Carson Rawlings, Caden Salmus, and Trent Zimmerman. And in lane 6, Parker Saxton, Tyler Long, Ryder Costa, and Odin Ripley.
Spring Lake Park there in lane 4, off to a great start in this relay.
Yeah, that's Sam Lillidahl well ahead of the pack. In second place here is Noah Herbert. Carson Rawlings in third right now. Tyler Law over on lane number 6. But a big lead right now for Lillidahl, probably a 3-length or so, but looks like gaining some ground is Noah Herbert here in lane number 2.
Yeah, that's where you see the effects of a relay. Of course, the next swimmer has to come in and really hold their own, because they're going against another equally good swimmer, and you think about what that can be, the difference in talent there as they move through those 4.
Caden Salmus in first place for Blaine. Isaac Lang and Ryder Costa in lanes 4 and 6, neck and neck, although it looks like Costa has gained some ground. It is a full length and a half ahead. Trying to gain ground on Salmus, but still about 2 lengths. And then over on the far side, this is Ryder Costa. And into the pool, the final lane. This is Patrick Ketz in lane 4, Trent Zimmerman in lane 5. Now Owen Vasquez in lane 3, soon to come into the pool, Odin Rippey.
Yeah, Zimmerman, off that turn.
Here comes Zimmerman. Zimmerman and Ketz. Ketz and Zimmerman. Looks like Zimmerman's going to pass him right at the end, and he's going to win the relay.
What a fantastic kick there from Zimmerman at the end.
25.71 on the split, as opposed to 28.19 for Ketz. As Vasquez will finish in third. 2:06.15 the winning time for Blaine. The Spring Lake Park team finishes second 2:06.72.
Wow, yeah, that's exactly what you see in a relay. You see that Zimmerman comes in, has that burst of energy off the turn, and then able to stretch out and finish this one off. A big win for Blaine.
That was a great, great finish at the end. And so we will move now. That says the JV winner. So now we move to the varsity of the same. We'll have 6 teams. Blaine will have 4 competitive teams. Spring Lake Park will have 2. So in lanes 1, 3, 5, and 7 are Blaine. 4 and 6 are Spring Lake Park. In lane 1, Daniel Lamb, Kenton LeBeau, Maxwell Schuster, and Matthew Hadley. Lane number 3, Nathan Ledwith, Scott Owen, Logan Husby, and Kobe Bonson. Spring Lake Park, lane 4, Carson Holmquist, Sam Clark, Griffin Gaspersich, and Braden Ripken. Lane 5 for Blaine, Jay Staten, Benjamin Carilla, Bradley Weischer, and Ryan Mackey. Spring Lake Park in lane 6, Gabriel Basig, Miles Erickson, Eli Becker, Nathan Krotzer. Lane number 7, Jesse Tverberg, Scott Alexander, Jackson Powers, and Evan Boyd.
Off that first turn, Blaine took the lead, but still neck and neck. Spring Lake Park right behind him.
As you see, Clark in lane 4, Carilla in lane 5, Owen in lane 3, LeBeau in lane 1, and then Miles Erickson in lane 6, Scott Alexander in the pool in lane number 7. And it is neck and neck right now between Sam Clark in lane 4, who has just a hair of a lead over Benjamin Carilla. In 3rd place is Miles Erickson. Into the pool now, that's Griffin Gaspersich. Right behind him is Bradley Weischer.
Yeah.
As Gaspersich has a bit of a lead, half a length.
Yeah, that slight edge, and you'll see off this turn that it gets closer yet.
Good turn there by Weischer, and he has evened things up and might have just a hair of a lead over Gaspersich as we move into the final. As this is Ryan Mackey in lane 5, Braden Ripken in lane 4. Ripken with maybe a hand-level lead in lane 4 as they go to the final turn. Mackey stays underwater a bit longer. Here's Ripken, just a quarter of a length ahead, and it's going to be Braden Ripken leaping out to win that one in the end over Ryan Mackey. 133.51 to 134.28. Krotzer will finish in 3rd place in lane number 5. And then it'll be Bonson touching up in lane number 1. And it'll be neck and neck for 5th place. Looks like it's going to be Matthew Hadley in lane 1 over Evan Boyd as we see the finish here once again. And that was really a back and forth scenario between the two before that was Spring Lake Park and Braden Ripken winning that at the very end.
Yeah, the 200-yard freestyle relay really brought it in both of the JV and the varsity events.
And Braden Ripken with a 21.9 split. I think that's the fastest split. I'm not saying it has been the fastest split because I haven't been watching intently every split, but that's the fastest split I've seen tonight, the first sub-22 split.
And that's what it takes to finish and get that win for your team.
So now we move to the junior varsity 100-yard backstroke, and we'll have 5 competitors here. In lane number 1 is Jackson Powers for Blaine. Maverick Miller of Blaine in lane 3. Samuel Planting in lane 4. Jesse Tverberg in lane 5. Kenton LeBeau in lane number 7. So down and back, down and back. And looks like on the far side, Tverberg in lane number 5 starts out with the early lead. Kenton LeBeau, Samuel Planting, even up in second place right now. Been talking baseball and softball. I went from second place to second base.
Easy to do, all the sports.
And Jackson Powers now has overtaken the other 2 for second place, and he's about a length behind Tverberg right now. 3rd place now held by Planting. And even up between LeBeau and Miller at this point. Looks like Planting has continued to establish as we go into the final turn for the 100-yard. And again, second place, Powers.
Yeah, another race where maybe first won't be the biggest battle. However, they're in lane 1, maybe getting a little bit closer to him.
As Suburban will touch up, and he gets the win there. Powers will come in a couple of lengths back, and it appears that Planting has the edge for third place. Miller about 2 lengths ahead of LeBeau for fourth. So we move on now to the 100-yard varsity backstroke. And we will have 7 competitors here. In lane 1 for Blaine is Alexandra Scott. Vinnie Thunborg in lane 2 for Spring Lake Park. Quang Pham for Blaine in lane number 3. Isaiah Fry in lane number 4 for Spring Lake Park. Jace Dayton in lane number 5 for Blaine. Isaac Wicks in lane number 6 for Spring Lake Park, and Daniel Lamb in lane number 7 for Blaine. And we have a bit of a pause here. I don't see the official on the far side of the pool, and now I do see on the near side the 2 officials conferring, and now the official will head back to the far side. Not sure what the conversation was about.
Maybe what movie they were going to see after this, because it's Tuesday movie night.
Not only that, but I believe they announced the Oscars, the Oscar nominations
yeah,
today, didn't they not?
It's a big night.
Okay, your mark.
I'd have to think. Maybe we can discuss it in the 400-yard. I'm not really sure if I can think of any swimming movies. I have to think about that. The early goings here is Isaiah Fry. As this is Fry in the early going. Jace Dayton over in lane number 5 is in second place. Isaac Wicks in third. A two-way tie between Daniel Lamb and Vinnie Thunborg. And then Alexandra Scott as well over in lane 1. So we make the 75-yard turn, and appears that Isaiah Fry is 2 lengths ahead of Dayton here. He will touch up for the win, 56.7. Jace Dayton will finish in second place at just over a minute. Isaac Wicks in third place. Looks like Quang Pham has a beat on fourth place at this point. And on the far side, Daniel Lamb will reach ahead of Vinnie Thunborg. And now Alexandra Scott will finish things up. As Isaiah Fry will win the 100-yard backstroke.
Yeah, another victory there for the Panthers as they continue to add the points to that final team score that we'll see at the end.
Now we move on to the varsity 100-yard breaststroke. We do not have a junior varsity heat in this one, so we have a full complement of 8 swimmers. I do believe one of these swimmers, not sure which one, was maybe a junior varsity. We could look at the original event 21. Looks like Isaac Lang maybe was the junior varsity, so he's swimming this as an exhibition. He'll be in lane number 8 on the far side of the pool. Maxwell Schuster will be in lane number 1 for Blaine. Diego Morales for Spring Lake Park in lane 2. Logan Husby at lane number 3 for Blaine. Sam Clark for Spring Lake Park in lane 4. Brady Lease of Blaine in lane 5. Miles Erickson for Spring Lake Park in lane 6. Kobe Bonson is in lane 7 for Blaine. And again, the aforementioned Isaac Lang in lane number 8.
And there are only 3 events, including this one, to the completion of the swim meet tonight. And it's crazy we're already getting down there to these last few events.
As Clark, a half a length lead over Erickson on the far side as we make the 50-yard turn. Third place by Logan Husby. And a couple of swimmers following that one right behind. But Sam Clark's got a lead here at the 75-yard turn. Erickson now turning as well. This looks like it might be a Spring Lake Park first and second place situation. As Clark will come in first place here. 108.62. Erickson will finish in second place. Husby will touch in third place. Kobe Bonson about a half length ahead of Brady Lease, and he touches in. This will be Maxwell Schuster touching up. And Isaac Lang on the far side will finish up just ahead of Diego Morales. 136.52 for Morales. 134.87 for Isaac Lang. And so it looks like we will do a junior varsity and then a varsity relay the last 2 heats. But this heat, the junior varsity, only has 1 set of swimmers. So not sure why they combined all the other ones and then had these 4, unless I'm wondering if maybe there are. Is it possible that they have somebody that's competing in both of them, maybe? That's the only thing I could think of is why they wouldn't have combined them, but
that would probably be somewhat tough just to go
I would
back
say,
to back, but yeah.
I wouldn't want to do
I know,
it.
that's crazy. I don't know.
And we were told that there was somebody in lane 2 of this race originally that was disqualified. So that's why we only have 1. And so we'll have Sam Lillidahl on the platform here to dive off, followed by Parker Saxton, Odin Rippey, and Sam Planting. As Lillidahl will head for this. So this is down and back for each round. If this were me, I'm just speaking personally.
Yes.
This would be very difficult for me.
Oh, yeah, all eyes.
To be out here and you're the only one. Everybody's watching you. So, you know, and you're a 3-sport athlete. This would be akin to what, like maybe a penalty kick in soccer, where you're just out there. You're all alone.
True, but it does not last this long.
That's true.
So it's one of those where I guess maybe when you think of just their individual part of the relay is obviously shorter than the entire thing, but so at least they got some teammates in this one. It's not an individual event going by themselves, so maybe that helps a little. But yeah, it still would be somewhat nerve-wracking knowing that no one else has anything else to watch. It's just you and your lane.
118.58 for Lillidahl. For me, this would be maybe like shooting 20 technical fouls.
Yes.
when you're down by 18.
Yeah.
It's like, here it is. Everybody's watching and everybody's kind of invested because there's nothing else right here. This is all on you.
But the thing is, yes, they have to be paying attention also to the clock, because otherwise there's no one to show if you were doing well or not, because you don't have those athletes next to you. So it helps maybe a little bit.
I think that's the other reason why this would be difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're, let's say you're running track, part of your ability to compete is that you are competing against somebody else. Right now, they're competing against the clock. They're competing against their own abilities. They're competing against their personal best times and everything like that. But that's it. You're out there. And so, as opposed to, running that 400-yard dash or whatever, 100-yard dash, this is it.
That's what's hard, even in track. They've talked about that as just being, if your team, even in a relay, gets out to a massive lead.
Yes.
And then you have to go and you're running, let's say, the third leg.
Yep.
But you don't have anyone next to you. So
Yep.
yes, at least you have someone in the rear view that that at least there's somebody back there that's going to be trying to get you. But it's kind of hard to pace yourself and figure out how fast you actually do need to go to keep up what you're able to accomplish in a race.
And sometimes they do.
Yeah.
By the
No,
way,
easily,
sometimes
yeah.
they do catch you. So, but
Probably because of that. Like you said, they didn't have that competition until it was too late. Now they are tired because just in general, the race is tiring.
this is Owen Ripa. He is the third of fourth coming in, and he is at the 50-yard turn, I believe. And then we will have Samuel Planting, who is about to plant himself on the pedestal.
I think, too, this is the last event for that junior varsity. So these guys having this last thing that they will do tonight. And again, not too many things left on the season, so really just wanting to give that full effort, knowing that they don't have as many times to compete as the season winds down.
And now Samuel Planting to finish things off. I just received a text message from a very knowledgeable person regarding swimming movies,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Kenton Kipp.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently there's more than 40 swimming movies, including Streamline and Pride.
I was thinking of more like the Air Bud. I feel like they have a sport of every Air Bud. So I figured maybe there was one of those, but
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
I don't know if I want to swim in the pool with a dog, I'll say that, but
That's too funny.
how many of those swimming movies do you think somebody overcame adversity?
Oh, 100%. Maybe 200%.
Has there ever been a sports movie where the terms overcome adversity didn't enter? I mean, let's see a movie about, like the 98 Yankees, Who
Yeah.
doesn't love a story about the 98 Yankees?
Classic.
What?
Classic.
Or a team that's supposed to win and just doesn't, just completely fails. The general manager gets fired at the end of the year.
no.
The team moves to, Sacramento.
Yeah.
As Samuel Planting finishes things up. Time of 5:38.25 on that one.
Well, now just one event left, Nick, and this one is the last chance to add those points for your team, and these guys are going to be putting everything in the pool that they have left today.
One last point, by the way, before
Oh,
we
yeah.
move
I
on.
need this. I
There's
need this.
plenty of movies that things don't work out in the end. I mean, Jack doesn't get on the door.
True, yeah.
We never know what's in the box in Castaway at the end. All
Yeah.
those things. There's lots of things, but sports movies always tend to work out. So, yeah, I guess Coach Carter, I don't think they won the state tournament. That was one, I guess. But they made the state tournament. See,
It's all all perspective.
Friday Night Lights, yeah, I mean, so final event of the night. This is what happens when people start to overheat. They start talking about random movies. As we are underway here, Blaine in lane 1, Matthew Hadley, Jackson Powers, Jonathan Kambata, and Evan Boyne. Spring Lake Park, lane number 2, Grayson Albrecht, Patrick Ketz, Isaac Wicks, Vinny Thunberg. Lane 3 for Blaine, Carson Hamill, Quang Pham, Jaden Reichert, Nathan Ledwith. Spring Lake Park, lane 4, Griffin Gaspersich, Carson Holmquist, Nathan Krotzer, Isaiah Fry. Lane 5 is Ryan Mackey, Brady Lease, Bradley Weischer, Jace Dayton. Lane number 6 for Blaine, Owen Scott, Trent Zimmerman, Jesse Tverberg, Maxwell Schuster. Gaspersich and Mackey finish up their heats, and now Holmquist and Lease are in the pool. Now in lane 3, Pham is in the pool. Lane 2, Ketz is in the pool. Over on the far side, that's Zimmerman in the pool. We've got about a half a length lead right now, although expanding for Holmquist right now. He expanded it from a half length to about a length and a half, close to 2, as we go to the 150 turn. Really accelerating through here on this heat.
Yeah, this is where you're going to see those turns being crucial in this race. You saw how close it got, but yet he was able to still pull away and keep Spring Lake Park in the lead that they have. But that was a pretty good turn coming off of that one for Blaine in lane 5.
The lead is 2 lengths now. For Holmquist is Krotzer is into the pool. We saw what he did with those long races and short splits. We'll see what he does here. Reichert is in the pool behind him. Now Isaac Wicks is also in the pool. And Krotzer continuing 2 to 2.5 length lead now on the far side. And the near Kambata and Tverberg are now in the pool as well. There's the Krotzer turn at 250. Still maintaining about a 2-length lead, but it appears that Weischer is gaining ground on Krotzer here.
Again, going into this turn, we'll see if he's able to gain even more ground.
And he has cut this down to 1 length and maybe less than that as we come in. Oh yeah, this is going to be 3/4 of a length going into the final. As Isaiah Fry is in the pool and Nathan Ledwith as well. Ledwith to the near side, Fry on the far, and that was a good entrance in the pool by Fry as he is now leading Jace Dayton. But here comes Dayton, and he has closed ground again.
Again, that final turn.
This is a half length into the final full turn.
This final turn, you know, is going to be huge. You saw how well Blaine has been able to do out of the turn. It has gained them some ground, so will that be the advantage they need here?
They hit the final turn at literally the same time, and this is going to be a photo. Dayton on the far side, Fry on the near. You can hear the crowd on both sides. Here comes Fry. Here comes Dayton, and Fry is the winner.
Wow.
3:35.21, 3:35.41.
Oof. That is what the relays are all about, folks. You heard the crowd has been in it throughout this meet, but even more so, you get to that final relay, and everyone is there to cheer their team on. Woo.
As we see that replay again and into the final 10 or so yards, you can see that Fry had just the edge, maybe about a head length.
A Fry length.
A Fry length. As Ledwith touches for third. On the far side, Schuster's in fourth. Thunborg is finished up in fifth. And we've got one final turn of this meet, and it's Evan Boyne in lane number 1. And so we will wrap this up as Boyne finishes things up. 4:47.47 is the final time on that one. And with that, we can I think it's fair that based on how the second half went, that Spring Lake Park did in fact win the second half of the match, and did win the match. So congratulations to Spring Lake Park. As we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, the Panthers. Woo, Nick, that was fun.
And for everybody, Ted LaRue in the director's chair, and everybody who helped us out today, I'm Nick Walsh signing off, as the victors are the Panthers on this evening. And we'll sign off from Spring Lake Park. So long, everybody.